Peace. What's happening, good people? This gift here for Pay Us No Mind, and we here with Jeff Ponchick from Repost Network, and we're getting into the acquisition or slash partnership with SoundCloud and what it all means for everybody, man. You know, all of the artists that use Repost and the artists that use SoundCloud and monetizing through SoundCloud and everything like that, man. So Jeff, tell me, man, what's your day like now, man? Are you like waking up in the morning, throwing on a bathing suit, putting on your swimming cap, and jumping off a diving board into a pool of money, man? You Scrooge McDucking it now, man?
No. This is definitely not a situation where, the company's sold and I'm walking and, no, not at all. We're, I'm excited to jump into it. I'm honestly working just as hard, if not, harder than before on Repost, and just figuring out how to connect everything in, how Repost is going to connect in with SoundCloud, how SoundCloud's going to connect in with us. And, the outcome was good. Everyone on the team is staying and getting, a little bump up. And, I think everyone's excited about that, but by no means is it like chill on the beach and, forget about it all. It's time to work.
So what kind of like separated monetizing through Repost Network from monetizing through SoundCloud? Like when they announced that they were opening up monetization, what was the difference between going through you guys and going directly through SoundCloud?
Sure. So there's a couple differences, right? So one is I believe SoundCloud allows, at Repost, we're selective about who we choose to work with, right? We're still invite only. And, for us, on top of the monetization comes, advanced features, things like, content takedowns. If anyone's stolen your music on SoundCloud and you want that taken down, you can flag that through us and we can issue takedowns for you. We own a platform called SoundCloud Planner, which you can get more or less for free if you're monetizing through us. We have label services and marketing teams, who make sure that once your content is monetized and on SoundCloud, you're getting reposted from other large SoundCloud channels and getting more plays, right? Going directly through SoundCloud, it's sort of just the monetization, and you're kind of left to your own devices. For us, it's a bit more of a premium offering, and there's added features and custom tools built on top of SoundCloud to help you get the most out of your audience. Now, of course, that's not to say one is better than the other, right? It kind of depends on where you're at as an artist or label or channel owner and kind of what you're hoping to get. Certainly through Repost, it's a little bit more expensive as we take a rev share. Through SoundCloud, you see 100% of your royalties, but that's the question you got to ask yourself, right? Like, is the added tools and features and marketing through Repost, worth, giving up a little bit of your royalties in exchange for, building a larger audience and a wider following? If you feel like you can kind of handle those things yourself, then going directly with SoundCloud is also a totally viable option. So, it's just I think there's benefits to both sides, and, it's important to kind of know what those are and weigh your different options.
I mean, that's one thing that I can say, right? Not only separates you guys from SoundCloud, but separates you guys from a lot of other digital distributors, because I'm not sure if you know, right, as a digital distribution owner, but as an artist and working with artists, you see a lot of times digital distributors have promotion as an option, but it's not really promotion, right? It's like, okay, well, we'll do Spotify playlist pitching, but it's like, do they really pitch? Because it seems like they don't, you know what I'm saying? And they'll say stuff, they'll have like things like like the smart page thing with the multiple links. So it's not really like promotion, but Repost Network like has like actual promotion, like SoundCloud Planner is almost like a repost exchange where if somebody has a certain following, they can basically exchange followings with another SoundCloud user, and they repost your stuff, you repost their stuff, and it's almost like a even exchange between you guys. You're exposing each other to each other's audiences. So it's like that. I've also seen you guys do things like get sponsorship opportunities where sometimes somebody will reach out to you, and I see the notification where it's like, hey, we're taking not applications, but I guess it's like applications, because it's like people gotta apply and stuff. But it's opportunities, and it shows that you guys are always working and trying to find ways and things that can kind of add value, as opposed to 100%. Just kind of like sitting on whatever you make from the digital distribution aspect. Like you get your 30% or whatever, and it's like, hey, you guys are on your own, like that's not, how you guys kind of operate.
Yeah. I mean, I think, in a lot of ways, distribution has been commoditized a bit, right? Like there's services like TuneCore and DistroKid where, you just pay a low fee and you get in stores and you get 100% of your royalties, right? For us, the way we see the world is, you need to make it so that once the content hits the platform, right, it finds success, right? And that's how you justify your service offering. Yes, distribution is how, that's the business we are, but, what we need to provide to artists and labels is, whether it's from a product standpoint or a marketing standpoint, ways to get ahead based on whatever nuances may exist on said platform, right? And from the marketing standpoint, I think you're totally right. It's like a lot of distributors say, oh, we do DSP marketing, we'll get you in Spotify playlists. What that means is, they're just putting a couple songs a week into a spreadsheet and sending it to Spotify and hoping that, someone over there opens it and listens to it and playlists it, right? Like we're trying to figure out how do we build and operate our own brands on Spotify and SoundCloud and YouTube, right? How do we connect our artists and our client base into the larger influencers, right? Those are like independent playlists on, say, Spotify, making sure that those content are, their content is, getting into those playlists. And so, I mean, it's kind of a nuanced approach, and, that's kind of why we've always been invite only, right? Is because, you never want to scale too quickly and just accept everyone. And, then all of a sudden you have this like diluted service offering that doesn't provide any value. And, you end up kind of in that sort of ethical dilemma. But I think you're totally right. A lot of different services out there. And, I think especially when it comes down to the marketing and the label services, it's like, if you're ever trying to make the decision of who to work with, like what are they going to be doing specifically for you, right? And, that's something that we try to be pretty open about, and try and 100% push the boundaries and be super scrappy and try and just bring as many opportunities to the table as we humanly can for our clients to justify, the revenue split that we take. So,
I think that's definitely the better way to go. I mean, just from the standpoint of like, I got the channel and stuff, and a lot of times I have artists reach out to me, and they a lot of times will, express a certain level of, I guess, I would say not anger, but kind of below that, right? Like, oh, why these guys got to have like a threshold or whatever, But it's like the thing that I tell them, I'm like, listen, man, at the end of the day, if there is no value in the music, right? If you're not getting a certain number of streams, then there is really no money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's no money for you, and it's no money for the person who has to pay for the resources to get the release in stores and to maintain it and to do, the financial calculations, which is evident in like what's happening with STEM right now, right? Where STEM was like free. We're just going to take a percentage of what you make. And then you have all of these artists that go there because they don't want to pay or anything like that. And they already are scared to pay because the assumption is they're not going to make any money off of their music. So that's why they're looking for something for free. So STEM and digital distributors that kind of operate like that be taking a percentage of nothing almost, really,
Right. Yeah. and having to front load all the resources. I mean, I really like the people over at STEM. I think there's, the people who are in that building, building that product. I think it's a really talented team. But yeah, I mean, it's a scenario in which you have a company that went out, they raised a lot of venture capital, and they came in and they thought, we'll operate off the venture capital and undercut all the existing competitors out there from a rate and pricing standpoint. And, I think we're starting to see, the outcome of that strategy, right? And maybe it's the right strategy. Maybe them saying, look, we want to focus a little bit more on our, higher performing top tier, creators. And, we're kind of figuring out where we are in the market. Maybe that's the right move for them. Maybe it won't be, I think time certainly will tell. Right.
Yeah,
But I mean, but I think you're right. If you're an artist or label and you're seeking out distribution, and you're going to be putting your content, i.e., potentially your livelihood, in the hands of that business. I mean, you want to make sure that business is standing on, fertile ground, right? No one likes to get kicked out, and no one, wants to have their content associated with something that might, kick you out or not be around in a couple of years.
Yeah, man. So let me ask you this, man. When SoundCloud first announced that they was stepping into digital distribution, did that concern you at all? Like, did you break a sweat? Like, oh man, they kind of like stepping into our territory.
Not really. No. I mean, for me, I knew it was coming. We recently got acquired by SoundCloud, and we'd been talking to them, and we work very, very closely with them, for a while. And so, it wasn't a big shock to us. And I think it's really smart that they did it, right? I mean, I think that, for them, if they can use distribution as a way to get more people to come and pay for unlimited pro offerings, I think it makes a lot of sense for them as a business. And I think that they, I think what, Carrie Trainer likes to say is that, new CEO of SoundCloud is, SoundCloud is where all artists start, right? The place where all these artists start. And I think that, they have a huge competitive advantage over more sort of at-scale distribution services out there, just because there's so many artists already starting and, building their businesses on SoundCloud first. And, I think that it's super smart for them to get into it. I didn't feel, at the time like it was too competitive of a move, just because, again, we kind of have our sweet spot in what I like to call the middle tier of music. And, some artists might find that, distribution just through the SoundCloud distribution product is worth it, right? They're just looking to get into platforms and get accounted back to. But, for us, that's not really the artists we're trying to work with, right? We're trying to work with artists who are at a certain level, have a ability to create revenue, and then kind of work with them on saying, okay, what's the next step? How do we get there? How do we continue to be hands-on with you and a part of your team, and market you and offer content protection so that you can get to that level, right? And so I think that kind of with where SoundCloud's distribution offering kind of is, and the way, and I guess the place it launched in was sort of in a different kind of area of the market than we were. So, while also complementary. So I kind of thought, I wasn't like sweating bullets or anything, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So
yeah, just kind of a different kind of side of the tail, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. Totally, man. So what changes for like an artist that's on Repost Network now with this SoundCloud thing? If anything, does anything change if you're an artist that's signed up with Repost Network?
Yeah, so not immediately. So, to be completely honest, in these types of scenarios, when a company acquires another company, it takes a little bit of time, right? It takes a little bit of time for, us to figure out how we're going to work within them and how they're going to work within us, and start integrating, right? And that's a huge part of, what I'm about to be spending my time doing. But I can say that, based off of the conversations that we have been having, it's going to be great. Hopefully there will be, advanced, marketing opportunities on top of SoundCloud, potentially discussions around bringing back certain features that, people used to like, enhanced support, right? So obviously, by us being a part of SoundCloud, if there are issues that artists having on SoundCloud, we can get those fixed and worked with a little bit more quickly. And yeah, I mean, just more access all around to the platform for our clients. So yeah, I think ultimately, while I can't at this point in time say specifically what will change, we've been listening to our content creators, we've been listening to the artists and labels who we work with, we've been listening to them about what they'd like to see change at SoundCloud and what they'd like to see us get better at with SoundCloud. Things like faster monetization or better content protection. And those are all things we're about to tackle, and I think it's going to build a much better ecosystem for what I like to consider the higher performing artists of SoundCloud, as it relates to interfacing and interacting with the platform. So yeah, it's all very exciting.
Yeah, man. I mean, it sounds exciting, man. I mean, I just had an artist recently, joined SoundCloud monetization, and the thing that I saw when I looked into the back end was just like, where do you see royalty reports? I was like, yo, where
Sure.
is any of that information at? So is Repost Network going to be helping them out with that now?
Not specifically that. So SoundCloud has had, they have their own royalties team and their own process for submitting royalty reports and, paying out clients. They've been doing it for over 2 years. So, there's no immediate plan for us to take that over and have all payments run through Repost or anything like that. No, definitely not. But certainly the artists who do work with us and are used to working with us and, our payment schedule and our, seeing our statements and our month over month earnings and earnings data, I mean, that won't change. It'll only get better on the SoundCloud side.
Great, man. Great,
Yep.
man. I mean, okay. Now, far as I know, right, with digital distributors, right, and stores and streaming platforms like SoundCloud and Spotify and Apple and all of this stuff, right? You guys negotiate like a royalty rate, right? Or a royalty split, right? On the money that comes in, like the percentage of revenue that you're supposed to collect on behalf of your artists, right?
Yep.
Okay, now when a company like SoundCloud acquires a company like Repost Network, how does those negotiations now take place? Do they clone you and sit you across the table from yourself, and then you have to kind of how does those negotiations work out now?
You mean with regards to our royalty rate and SoundCloud's royalty rate?
Yeah. Like, how do you negotiate what you get from them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So Repost, and I hope you can respect I can't get into the specifics of our deal. But, keep in mind we have been working with SoundCloud on monetization from the very beginning. So we already have our own deal, which is in place. Whether or not we choose to continue on with that deal, time will tell. But, there's certainly a term left on it. And, moving forward as of now, there's going to be no distinct changes to the way in which, our rate with SoundCloud, is, if that makes sense. So
yeah, I mean, it is,
but time will tell. Yeah, I mean, look, the breadth of this entire partnership between us and them is to just make a better ecosystem for artists and to help them, get to the point in which, maybe you're an artist who's offsetting, your income with your royalties, working with artists to get to the point in which, they can make this their full-time job, right? That's the dream. How do you make artists make a living through their audiences online, right? And so, I'm very gung-ho on always, kind of thinking about how do you run a business in which all the artists you work with were able to approve of every penny that was spent, right? We want to make a better ecosystem for artists, and we're going to keep that in mind. And the plan is to not create a worse revenue rate or experience with artists at all. That it couldn't be further from that.
Yeah, I mean, expect it, man. I mean, you still gotta serve the clientele,
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, if anything, if we can create a better rate than anyone else. That, I don't know, but that could be, that could be something that I'm sure artists would really appreciate, right?
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, a lot of times artists don't keep they eye on that type of stuff, but I mean, yeah.
Super important. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times artists don't know what the hell they're getting paid from their distributor. I mean, you remember when I had tweeted something out about that, where I was like, basically, I was looking at it from the standpoint that, like, okay, well, that they negotiate the rate, but we never hear anything about when digital distributors are in negotiations. Like, you don't hear when a CD Baby's contract is up and they're renegotiating for a new contract. Right. We only see when Sony or one of the majors, when Warner's contract is up, it's all over the place. It's like, well, Sony's negotiating a new rate with Spotify. Who's gonna win in this war between Spotify and Sony or whatever, or Warner or whatever? But the DSPs has pretty much been able to operate in secrecy to some extent. Nobody knows,
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, man, at the end of the day, it's all good, man. I mean, now I would ask you this too. Like, what do you say is kind of like the best practices for artists to kind of get the most out of SoundCloud activity? Because one thing I can say about SoundCloud, and this is even from when I run campaigns, that are targeted to get people to Spotify, you still get a lot of people that go to SoundCloud, and then people start playlisting and reposting, and the songs take on a life of their own on SoundCloud. So once those things start happening, is there anything that an artist can do to kind of get more out of it?
Sure. So to kind of ask your question back to you, so you're saying if a song starts to do well on SoundCloud, you're starting to see some buzz, get, more plays than you were expecting. How do you get the most value out of that?
Yeah,
for sure. Well, I mean, the first thing is making sure that all your music, I would say, is on all other platforms, right? So, if the song's doing well, I mean, we see this all the time. It's like you have a song go up on SoundCloud, and it's like, well, where is it on Spotify? Where is it on Apple, right? And it's like, oh, I don't really care, right? Another thing that's really strong is the connection between SoundCloud and YouTube as well. So certainly in the electronic dance music space, somewhat of the hip hop rap space, songs will get ripped off from SoundCloud and put into videos on YouTube. So I'm sure you've done a video or two on YouTube Content ID, right? Yep. So you want to definitely make sure you're working with someone on that front to make sure that you're collecting all of the royalties that you humanly can. Then another thing is follow for download gates. So I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but follow for download gate is a custom link you can use to give away a piece of content for free in exchange for, like, a free download in exchange for, say, a follow on SoundCloud or a follow on Spotify, right? So you might think about making a remix of the song, or, giving out the stems, or, giving away some piece of audio content that's somehow linked to that high performing song, and offering it for free. And SoundCloud actually offers a download button, which you can input the link into. So you can actually drive your traffic to that link, get people to download that song or, another version of the song for free. And that will translate into followers on, say Spotify or SoundCloud or you name it. Another thing as well, certainly if your song is doing well, and, I'm just sort of spitballing here at this point, is, usually when a song's doing well, if you're working with the right distributor, and you have a good enough relationship, you can let them know, right? And sometimes, if something's doing really well on one platform and let's say it's doing well on SoundCloud, we can bring that to a Spotify or an Apple and say, hey, look at this awesome growth, right? And, this artist is going on tour, and maybe there's a whole story around that, right? And that can help us to get more features in other platforms as well. And then, another thing, I think that's actually all pretty good ways of doing it. Another thing also is to make sure that if your song is getting ripped off on SoundCloud quite a bit, so let's say the song's doing really well and you have all these imposter channels who are just, uploading it and trying to get your plays from you, it's really, really important to make sure that, all the plays are going to the centralized monetized source. And so we have a tool for that. It's a takedown tool, which I referenced earlier in this call, where you can literally input all the track URLs that are ripoffs of your music, and then our content operations team will take it down. And that makes sure that all the audience and all the plays are going to you, and it's not getting segmented, and you're going to, 13-year-old kid who doesn't know that they shouldn't be ripping your music off and uploading it to their page, right?
Hey, man, I mean, I've seen a trend lately, man, of not only people just uploading other people's songs, where they just say, okay, well, like sometimes they'll slow it down slightly or speed it up slightly and upload it, but also people just straight recording the songs. Like, I don't know if you remember, but it was an old song from Puffy and the disgraced singer R. Kelly, right? What was the name of it? What was that name of that song, man? Something about I want to treat you better. I forgot the name of it, but anyway, man, it came up in Spotify, and it was not R. Kelly, and it was not Puffy, but it was the same beat, same lyrics, horrible singing, horrible vocal performance from the rapper, whoever he was. But because the metadata says Puffy and R. Kelly and has the original song title and everything like that, it's coming up in the artist radio stations. It's coming up in those playlists, all of that stuff. So whoever it is, they probably, making some money from that off of basically manipulating the system. So I don't know if your content ID thing would pick up something like that. Would it be able to?
Yeah, so we're dealing with that type of stuff all the time. I mean, usually it's our artists submit it to us and be like, hey, this person ripped me off. Like, we need to take this down. And we're like, sure, let's do it, right? And we'll file a report with, all the DSPs. But yeah, I cannot tell you how many people come to us who are artists who say, I only released this song on YouTube, and then it did well, and then someone else used, TuneCore or CD Baby, some other kind of at-scale massive distributor to kind of put it everywhere else, and, it's up there for months, and it's generating revenue and you know what I mean? Like millions and millions of plays, and it's just, and then, it's just like the saddest thing to see. So, for us, we have built some back-end tools on top of like Spotify and, a couple other platforms where if we notice like any duplicates of our existing releases that have gone up, we can identify that and kind of like do a little bit of detective work and just make sure that the content is, protected. On UGC platforms like YouTube and SoundCloud, they have their own type of content ID systems, which we patch into and are scanning pretty regularly. So, and those are pretty good. Like, even if someone slows it down or speeds it up or chops it up a bit, like, usually we're able to detect it. But yeah, to answer your question, it's kind of platform by platform. It's kind of dependent on how open it is, what you can access from an API standpoint, what you can build on top of it. And, but yeah, it's super important. I mean, it's funny. It's like, it's the least sexiest part about music, right? Is content protection, but it's where all the money gets made, right? Like it's pretty wild how much money just slips through the cracks from situations like, you had just mentioned, with R. Kelly. But yeah, we've built some kind of back end tools to just, make sure that when artists are with us and they're distributing, they're, not, that's not happening, or we can at least reach out to them and say like, hey, did you know this was happening? Are you cool with this? And more times than not, it's, they had no idea, but yeah.
Yeah. And I know that's like a real touchy topic, the content ID thing, man, with basically everybody that gets crazy about getting their videos claimed. Like, I already know once this video goes up, there's going to be mad comments where people are going to be like, F Repost Network, they claimed my video. My video only had my original music in it and all of this type of stuff, man. And that's something that I see that's common, right? It's like, I don't think you're a digital distributor worth mentioning if there's not somebody calling you a scam or
Yeah, yeah,
or
definitely part
complaining
of it.
about you.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Is the notion of copyright and how all these things work. Not everyone's on the same page, right? And it's confusing, and there's lots of different schools of thoughts around fair use and topics like that. And so yeah, I mean that's kind of what we do, right? Like we in some cases assume the bad guy on behalf of the client. And yeah, you probably will get a lot of negative comments. I'm sorry about that.
I don't care.
But
I mean, it
yeah,
is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like guys got to understand, it's the same thing I tell them when they comment. Sometimes if I feel like replying, I'll let them know. I'm saying, at the end of the day, it's not the digital distributor that is the one that's just randomly claiming your video. It's somebody that has them working on their behalf. So your issue really is with the other artists. If you feel like that's your original song, find out who the artist is, or and be like, hey, well, and work it out. And that a lot of times surfaces the fact that whatever claims they making are illegitimate because they don't want to take that step. They just are basically almost running a low-level smear campaign for the distributor, because they're upset that they didn't get to get away with something.
Right. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And I mean, we have tools in place too. I mean, we kick people out all the time, right? Like if we find out they've used a beat that, they said was theirs and it in fact wasn't, it's like, we kick them out. I mean, you got to be vigilant with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I'm.
In most cases, these YouTubers who upload their music, it's like they're not in the right. 99.9% out of 10. But in the few times in which not every artist is perfect and not every artist is ethical too. I think that's what makes a good distributor, right? Is knowing when to say, look, like you shouldn't have done that. You're out, and we're gonna try and set this straight, right? Yeah. So, which is the story that you probably don't hear too much about.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you hear about stuff like that from some people that got kicked out, right? Where they complaining and stuff. But real quick, man. Yeah, just touch on the impact of stuff like that, like the people who abuse Content ID, where they upload other people's music and claim that it's theirs, and have a company like Repost claiming stuff that they shouldn't be claiming because it does belong to somebody else, and even extending that to like the fake streams where they go and they buy a bunch of fake streams, or they do the playlist thing where they put a bunch of songs on a playlist and everybody streams it 24/7, or they have bots. Like, what's the impact of that type of activity on Repost Network? How does that kind of like impact your relationship with a streaming platform, from a SoundCloud to a Spotify or whoever? Like, what is the overall ramifications of those types of activities?
Sure. So, no, that's a great question. So every platform has a way to process and notify distributors and artists around infringements, right? So, anyone can Google Spotify takedown and find the form, that you as just, Joe Schmo or whoever can, submit a copyright complaint, and the content will come off of Spotify usually, right? And there are processes in place that, each DSP, whether you're Deezer or Spotify or Angami in the Arab world, right? Like, as obscure as you are, there are processes that they put in place towards distributors, right, to get these situations, fixed and otherwise sorted out, right? So usually what'll happen is if someone issues a DMCA takedown notice saying like, oh, this person stole my song, they shouldn't have, it creates a dispute. In YouTube Content, they actually have an interface where you can see what's been submitted as a copyright dispute, and we can approve or reject it. Some other platforms, right, it's literally through an email, right? It's like a person at the platform who emails you and says, hey, we got a report saying that, you shouldn't have distributed this and your artist is in the wrong, right? And then our team, we'll take a look at it. We'll reach out to the artist or client. We'll try and figure out what the issue is. And if, if the DSP is incorrect, we'll go back and sort it out. And sometimes we'll win some of those cases on behalf of our clients. And if the artist is, there's been abnormal streaming activity or it's a copyright issue, then we'll, kick them out and then reach out to the person who filed the claim and, try and get it all sorted out, but ultimately at the end of the day, the liability falls upon the artist who's distributing the content, right? Like, you shouldn't be distributing content you don't own, and you shouldn't be botting plays and things like that. And, the best answer I can give you is that, music platforms, they see this a lot more than we do, right? Mm-hmm. Because they have to work with every distributor. So, they have their processes in play, which, we, adhere to. And, we just try and work with them as the best partner we humanly can be to, when these issues come up, to make sure that, they're resolved quickly and, everything's, sorted accordingly.
Cool, man. So
and then it kind of, go ahead.
No, get finish, man.
Oh no, and then it's kind of on us if we want to continue working with that person or not, right? Based on the exposure. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, so it's not something that Repost network deals with a lot, right? Like, you don't see that happen, too often,
No, but it's because we're selective about who we work with, right? And there are lots of competitors that, you're familiar with who have lost their deals with DSPs over this, right? Because they scaled too quickly. They just took anyone and everyone, distributed everything into Spotify or YouTube, and it was a total, disaster. And so, since we are selective about who we work with, we have we actually have a automated review process that actually any song that gets submitted for monetization on SoundCloud or, distributed into Spotify, we actually we do an audio fingerprinting and run it against a database to make sure there aren't any uncleared samples. If we do find samples, it's flagged, and then we reach out to the client and we confirm that they have the license to use it, or if they don't, we reject it. And so we have for us, we've built a lot of hooks in place to just be good players within the space. That said, no one's perfect, but, I like to think that since we are I like to say we're a tech team in music. We're a tech company in music, not a music company in music, right? We've built a lot of hooks in place to just make sure that, we're the best partners possible with these platforms. So,
man.
Yeah.
So, man, you've answered all my questions, man. I hope, everybody out there got a lot of information, man, from this discussion, bro. I'm looking forward to see what you guys do, man, and what this SoundCloud partnership kind of materializes into, If there's any last words, you got, brother, let it be heard.
Closing words, all I would say is, if you're an artist and you've been listening to this to the very end, I hope it was valuable. And I can't promise the importance of just making sure your music is everywhere. If you're at that point in your career, you're deciding, do I go with a label? Do I continue to distribute independently? Ask lots of questions and make sure that whoever you work with, you have a point of contact you can reach out to at any time who will make sure that your best interests are aligned, be it at the distributor or at the label. And I think that's mostly it. You can find us at repostnetwork.com if you'd like to apply. And I appreciate your time, man. You'll always be a friend of Repost. Yeah,
that's good to know, man. That's good to know, man. So, thank you, Jeff, man, for clocking in, man, and lending your voice, brother.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, y'all. This is Gift signing off. Pay us no mind. Peace, good people. 1.